Understanding the aspects of our setting location is the mind. The mind itself knows its settings, knows exactly what it sees through its image. We all have to understand how this all works, understanding the heart. The heart lines its communication of time, its capacitor communication of time settings. It operates in all lines of all communications. So the image that you are in settings of co-creating, okay, it's coming into your reality. So that reality basically puts it on structure, design. So when you write something, and all communications coming into muscle memory, right, which is very powerful in that positions. It allocates position of time sequence, it all positions programs, it high position distractions. You just come into levels. It's like, you remember that time you went to this place? You remember you went to that place? That's muscle memory. You're remembering. So that's bringing you back through time, okay? Real time, real space. And this is a position of its program where you have to really understand yourself through your parallels and your paradox and your paradigms, your polar shifts, your pulsars, and communications to your product accelerators of your habitation zones or anything through translocation, siting, operation system, system of travel. Okay? So you have that test on Friday with the frequencies to really understand location of its algorithm, how to change that set lines and how communication settings. Your chakra system can morph into anything through its own geometrics of its own MOD, and also to the muscle memory, where you guys can basically pick up any monologue in position of 1 minute to 5 minutes. How am I able to understand all this? Muscle memory, which is already done. So I'm not giving you guys something new. It's muscle memory. So general's already in that process of its memory. You understand? But it's already in setting. So I don't go through its image. It's already in set locations. So once you understand the image of itself, you're trying to understand the memory of its image and what you're seeing. So platitudes divisions. So it's the brain circuits. It's to understand the eye receptor calculations, how they have to come together. Optical inline screens, optical line interference, and all calculation settings, right? Oculars, and how you correlate the calculation of pineal glands and line centers and travel position of point centers of attractions. Puts all levels of you in balance in set locations. All right? So there's a calculation when you come in the frequency argument location settings where you basically change everything in that set lines, understand your alpha, delta, and thetas in that communication system. But also, too, closing your eyes basically gets you a better understanding to balance out what you're seeing. A lot of people see better open, a lot of people see better closed. But see, your eyes are never closed. This never closes. Right? Now, this is perception where you're seeing through projections on your dayline communication settings. See, you're not used to this in set position. My eyes are closed, but I see here. I see the graph, I see the communications, I see the wall line, everything, nothing's changed unless I change it. Okay? Nothing changes unless I change it. So I know where it is in its reality. Let's say you get a position of box, right? Close my eyes, communication. Box line, high center interference of center. Right? Box is in the center. Circle's in the center. Right? So there's so many ways of looking at that triangulations and all calculations. Triangulation line connects setting, center position. It's in the center. Close my eye. Boom. Nothing's off position. Everything's center. Okay? It's the image up here. Okay? So once you understand the image itself, the mind itself knows exactly what it's doing as it's traveling in its own system and travel communication because it's going so fast, so fast, so fast, so fast, so fast, so fast. So as it's going fast, it's going through frame, second, minute, hour, second, minute, hour, second, minute, hour. So the image is constantly changing. So if that's changing, your fingers have to change. You can't set a provision of an image here and it's not position of its structure of design. You're not in the same reality. You're looking through somebody else's perception or you're in somebody else's reality. Ooh. Catch that in set lines and communication sending attractions. Okay. So closing my eyes, image comes in correlation, setting attractions, high center interference, all lines of communications, center lines of high center interference, 6 and 9 position of travel. 6 and 9. Okay, so this is what I drew without even thinking. Okay, so this is the process that we're going to go into. Today we go in the view when we come into quantum awareness. There's set location, there's setting line, set locations. So closing my eyes, this is open, but it's not through triangulation. It's open through a box. Okay. It's not a triangulation. It's a box, right? There's no room with the triangulation. Better with a box frame. That's the windows of the soul. Box frame mainframe comes in your track location line system. So start with the simplification settings, Occam razor line calculations. Best example is simplest terms and supplications, right? One line division. Okay, it's one line division, right? So I'm closing my eyes, one line division, cross line screen. Okay, close my eyes again. Now I'm adding frames, but I'm in multitude lines of live in set locations into monotone, setting correlating line center interference. Now I know exactly where the image is in up track location. It's moving, but it hasn't changed its position of space and time. So in track location, A line center, B track location of north, and C line communication of D line rotation. See? Boom, 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 boom. I knew exactly where it was. Okay. I knew exactly where it was, right? So it's really understanding the process of what you're looking at as the image basically changes everything in how you see things through perception. It's really interesting too. So that's what I want everybody to focus on, because you guys focus too much on light and you focus too much on dark. Oh, it's 12 a.m. Got to close my eyes. Got to go to sleep. You're not sleeping. Your position line calculates this is open. Okay, you got flash drive interference, drive communication setting programs. So everything you have here has to be the same process you have here, right? Walking system, triangulation type position programs, direct lines, platform, traffic communication, and three-line communication. See? Same as it is here, but it's more complicated, right? So that's me walking the platform instead of three correlation. So what's up here is the same here. That's the image. That's the balance. No emotion in any way and form, okay? Very complicated if you don't understand the mind. So it doesn't matter how many times I do the image, it always comes out the same. Okay? I'm not adding emotion. It's changing the frames, right? So whatever I do, it's in that position of balance, right? So that's what I want everybody to do in locations. Close your eyes and in settings. Okay, we'll do that on quantum awareness, right? You get a better understanding how to get in position. You have your image here, and I want you to draw it and structure it on paper. Do it live, do it on continuous force, pause in between, structure its division locations, back on set lines and structure line connections to its position in calculations through schematics, right? Or you just go into continuous force, or you pause or you wait. So I've got a box line rotation, weight communication settings, images not moving, still set locations, center line connections. See, it's still there. It didn't move. But how did I know where the box was going to be? How did I know the circle was going to be there? How did I know the image didn't move? Because this is in position of balance. This is in position of balance. So it doesn't matter how long you wait. It's this that you have to process the travel. You see how powerful it is? I knew exactly that it didn't move because I balanced the frequencies of its space and time in the mind conceptual location of settings, all through muscle memory. Okay, very powerful stuff. Okay, so that's what we're going to practice on. Okay, so forming these equation lines, form line communication, three lines, zeros, triangulation line can split the anomalies of track lines of two atoms. Boom. So what's up here is here. Very powerful, right? See how that works? So what's here is here on paper. Same division, same location, same clocking, same calculation. You see how powerful it is? You see how powerful it is? All right. All right. So it doesn't matter what you do. It's just finding the balance of its muscle memory, right? In track location. So you know exactly nothing's moved. All right. So you get the image again in position locations. All right. So now it's line connections of two waves line central. It's got a box line condition setting and travel. It's got a cross line signal line communication and zero operations of its surface. Right? Intelligence. See? So what I had up here is here, same drawing. So if you're drawing something out, but the image is not in setting in set location, it's in a different parallel. It's somebody else's particle set location of its reality. because you add that through its equation. As soon as you add a name, you change everything of its image. So don't add anything to its emotion system locations. So it's important you understand how this all works, guys, okay? So again, when you're closing your eyes, really get into that focus, really get into that image, okay? Now I can just keep talking and talking and talking in all lines of communication, right? But it's all levels of frequency of its image and set locations, right? So what you have up here has to be balanced with what you put on its structure of division. That's understanding you through energy. That's understanding you through structure. That's understanding what you get your datas, your operation system, your circle line communication line interference, hyperspace and travel calculation point systems, your inputs, your outputs, your audio inputs, your travel and communication programs, your formulas, equation, calculate, modify, and schematics, line communication, perception of the work, calculation, high stream interference, or track location, high center, position to its operation. So what's up here is on the same, right? So everything that you do has to be in the mind first. The mind is the conceptual location to its navigation, knowing exactly what you're doing. So, okay, so basically what it is. All right, so try to get into a process. Your mind is trying to relax. Get the mind in relaxation. Get that relaxation mode. Not positional sleep mode, relaxation, right? It sets lines to your screensaver. You got a screensaver on, right? Now, to set yourself in reality time in communication system, right? You see yourself sitting down in the chair, right? You go over here, click that. Okay, it opens up, right? Now, what you have on graph screen in position location is where you left off. After you got up, made some coffee, had some breakfast, you sit back down, right? So you're adding frame, 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 frame. So the image is changing. So the structure of you is changing. Okay, but the center of operation doesn't change, which is you. Your body stays where it is. So the mind's shifting to where it needs to go, right? So when you close your eyes, you get a lot more balance. But when you open your eyes, you're a more centered balance. Okay, so there's so many ways of looking at that. And that's what you focus on. See, when you close your eyes, a lot of people get dizzy and whoa, 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 whoa. When you open your eyes, like, oof, what just happened, right? You saw something, but you can't explain it because you don't understand what you see through its image. So understanding what you see through its image is understanding what you see through structure. Okay, so closing your eyes, relax. Don't think of anything, just get into set locations, try to get into the image, right? You see the image. What is it doing through its intent? I see a box frame. Yeah, there's a box frame. Okay, I see a graph, I see a road. I can see applied to 2x thousands above. I'm showing you exactly what I'm doing with my hands, right? So what's here is happening here of what I'm doing. That's an attachment screen location setting that's going live and changing its position in real time, right? So it's set in by the fence line. Okay, it's only on left line communication. Direct lines of right line conditions set all communications. Right now, I got a platitude of a box line and a triangulation split. Okay, so in calculation line screen is a flux capacitor. Okay, so it's constantly moving in the same time motion. The energy lines track its communication surface. This allocates position of time sequence, puts position lines of centers in triangulation at point centers. Okay, very, very powerful stuff. So what you do here has to be the same thing. So start with your fingers before you get on structure. Because when you get on structure, you're going on paper. Because you have to have intelligence of its settings, know exactly how to communicate with its 4-point track locations. 4-line settings, the structure of its design. Triangulation line connection setting, circle line rotations, box location. Comes up. Now you see there's a hologram. Center split, circulation rotations, ground line center, high position lines at all levels, orb communications, 2 panels, space and time. Okay, so I'm just showing you exactly what it is. Okay, what you see through here is what you project from there. Okay, what you see from here is what you project from there. Okay, so getting that balance, guys, is really understanding that the mind itself is trying to understand the conception why you're co-creating these images. What is the purpose? What is its reason? is determining what happens next through your decisions and your choices that you make, right? So if you're structuring here, it's got to be the same on paper, because if it isn't, you're adding emotion, and it changes its image, space and time, through its clocking, through its location, through its operation, through its awareness and consciousness. So you're not aware of what you're seeing. You're not aware of what you're doing. So there are line connections. So that's what I want you guys to understand, is use your whole body, seeing the image here and projecting it from there, right? It's there, okay? So the box is here, one line signature, box over here. Bring it cross line, pi over here. Triangulation line splits, sets, position of 3 atom line rotation, triangulation center, open sequence, yin and yang, process communications, back in triangulation. Okay, so what I did here is the same. Now, I also can do in positions go back in time setting. I could set the image here, it's in real time, but I'm drawing an image in past time. Now that's confusing to you guys. You don't focus on that, but I'm just showing you when to reach higher levels of the mind, you change the conceptual location of its knowledge, of its intelligence, of its operation, of its space, of its particle system, through its transits and set locations. All right, so the image here is different. So I'm talking to you, but the image is different here, which means I'm in real time all at once, but I'm talking to you in your time. I'm talking to everybody in their time, in your reality, in your set locations, but at different images, at different frequencies in your space, in your time, in your provisions, in your awareness of its consciousness. So everything I'm saying is an image of you that you're picking up through frequency at a different space, different time, different provision, different location. That's the balance, okay? So the image up here is set positions, but I'm tracking communication of box, right? But the center correlation setting line communication is a circle. See, that's what I mean. I didn't put it in the center, did I? Because this is the correlation setting of reality in real time. This is the position of the mind in its own time. So the mind itself is its own operation system. Do you notice I didn't put the circle in the box, in the circle? You see how that works? That's the position location of balance, guys. When you basically come into that setting, which is extremely, extremely powerful. So if you set lines of an image here, you can change that image and create it through something else that puts it in real time and set location that brings in all correlations to setting attractions. Okay, and all that communications. Triangulation here in line connection system. All right, got a line screen line connections, the bottom line connections. Triangulation of the mind, me, general. Mind itself, me, general. See that? Didn't put this in the center, did I? So that's the balance that you guys need to get. And this is a process where it's in 2 different line connections. The mind is going in its own dimension, and you are in your own dimension. That's also balance of yin and yang, process of its communication. Right? Understand the 6 lines of attraction, 9 line settings in location system, and 3 center line connections of center. 3 line provision lines of center line connections of 9 centers, cerebral cortex lines of high calculation, sun track lines of high position of pi, and track lesion of 3 line provision. So there's so many ways of looking at through its set lines of communication. The more you understand the muscle memory, the more you understand how to platitude dislocation to its centers. It's very simple when you close your eyes. Communication lines, high center interference, track location of the sun. Sets locations, high generation lines, platitude line rotations of the moon, and track location. See? So truly understanding the balance of you is the center operation of you, right? So the more you focus on the eye lines, you understand your box frame, your main frames, and track location, your souls of your windows of your soul is a box frame. Okay, box frame, circle frame. Circle frame, box frame. See, how did I know it's not there and not there? How did I know I had to put it here and not there, right? That's the balance. That means the image hasn't changed yet, so it's at its same frequency. So the mind itself is its own intelligence, and you guys are not aware of that. So if the mind itself is its own intelligence and it's totally aware of everything it's at location, so is your brain. Everything in your position inside of you is different lines at different frequencies. So So when you're seeing it through its image, you know exactly you've done it on paper. You know you're going to get it through manifestations, right? The image is there. It's there, right? So when you open your eyes, the image is still there. But if it's not in the frame, you're not going to get it through manifestation because you're not at that frame in track location of its frequency and matching its system in set locations, right? It's all as a data frame, okay? Abundance, right? So to get the abundance lines attractions, it's omega, delta, theta, and alpha, okay? That's the wave it's at in a 4-cycle communication sending a track, right? Everything is teleportation of center, intra-application of system, and position lines of operation, okay? So that's how you have to understand how to see lines of communication to its image, right? So when you set the design, and it's really easy to open your eyes, but it's very hard to close your eyes and see that image on the same set locations when you get in structure of design and schematics, okay? And especially when you get the mind itself of separation, but it's not separated. It's just the mind's doing something else. Very powerful, guys, okay? Everything inside of you is its own awareness of its own consciousness. It's consciously aware of itself. It doesn't even have a self. It just exists. So it knows exactly what it's doing because all it's doing through its image is just trying to get you guys to understand how to get these frequencies of balance of you inside through its pattern, understanding the binary, understanding the transistors, resistors, your light switches, or anything to capacity. The volume and mass get you in all lines of communications how you process this. Okay? So I'm talking to you. I'm looking straight at you, but I'm getting a triangulation line conditions all positional points, centers, and 2-track location. See? It doesn't matter how you do it. Close your eyes, open your eyes. That's the balance you guys need to get. I'm communicating with you. So in position locations, still talking to you, but I'm going to add a different frame. But I'm going to do it through the mind. So the mind's in conception to another calculations to another acceptance, puts another lines of communication. The mind itself is on its own universal line of its own image. So there's 2 different images there in 3 lines. You get 3 images, 5 images, 12 images, 12,000 images, all set locations, seconds, minutes, and hours. So it's a process in position of its calculation. So I keep talking to you in track lines, and I'll calculate the line center interference and track to its communication system, point lines that track interference and track location. Now, I'm talking to you at a different frequency in all lines of your communications, bouncing your settings into your patterns and location your binaries. But in track location of mine, it drew something different in set location. See? I didn't say circle lines of cross line communication of 4 lines of communication of clockings, did I? That's the mind itself. Hoo-ah! All right. So getting into that position line conditions, guys, you have to come into that formations to really understand what the mind is to you. Be consciously aware of what you're doing through its image. Okay? So you know exactly when you're speaking in position, you understand the track location and what it is doing through its provision line calculation setting. This is all through the mind now in set locations, but I'm talking through you, through general. This is what the mind did. Right? But you have to understand what the mind just finished doing. That's its collaboration. That's its balance, right? 0 operation lines of 2 tracks, 2-line provision of 5 settings, high calculation line, triangulated lines, split lines, cross lines, string location into the line communication centers, and 0 location of 1 set location. Boom, right? That's the mind. But I'm talking to you at a different level, talking to a different space, talking to a different time. You know what's amazing? We're all unique. We're all in different lines of communication, but we're all connected to each other. Now, we have to formulate all lines of our communications first to understand our settings. So the test is basically you pick on any line condition, any monologue, 1 minute to 5 minutes. I want you guys to get into muscle memory, okay? The reason why you get into that is because we got in the tone, we got in position locations to a poem, get into the rhythm of yourself, get into the flow, right? So understanding what the image is doing, it's doing the same thing. Okay, this is the mind, this is general. Okay, this is the mind, Okay. This is general. It's always in the same track location. Okay. You understand now? That's the balance you guys need to understand. So when you close your eyes, the image is there. When you open your eyes, the image is still there. Okay. That's a frequency you guys have to find balance with. To get anything through all calculation, manifestation of its abundance is understanding its teleportation, what's set location to its units. The process of position location is truly understand how to use it through your observation, through your intention, through your influence and manipulations, right? So it's very simple, okay, to draw something when you're looking. We focus too much on this. We have to get off this. Drawing something, point lines, centers of track locations, and provision lines of circles, communication interference, line communication setting, and track communication triangulation line is a box line, set lines of high interference of four circumlocation settings of travel, right? So we have to get in this position location calculations talking to you, setting lines of structure line division centers, and travel communication. That's through the mind, but I'm talking to a different frequency, which is a different image. This is the mind. This is general talking. Just talking and observing to you guys. Talking, mind. Mind, this is what the mind's doing. This is what general's doing through talking. Okay? But they're both balanced. See? We focus too much looking at paper. You should be looking up. So this is where it comes into muscle memory when you go to auditions, right? You look at the paper, you get a cold read, 5-line signers, applications. You want to look at the keywords. And I mean keywords. So every image has a frequency. Every frequency has its image. So you take the words and turn it into frequency. But it's understanding what you're doing through its frequency because it's an ongoing continuous force setting. So when you get into that position location line connections, you're already balanced in your line connection setting locations. So closing my eyes, 4 platforms, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, it's right in line. It's right in line. See, I close my eyes, I know exactly where the lines need to go, right? See, it's about understanding the mind, the conception of the mind, the knowledge of the mind, the intelligence of the mind, the self-motivations of the mind. It's incredible once you understand what it is in all track location of its memory, okay? Memory is extremely important. The reason why is because you come across that in all calculations. Remember we did that last night in track locations, even though it wasn't there in travel in position to its operation, that's youth and muscle memory. You're remembering things. Okay, so that's a process you come into your system. It's all in track locations, your memory line communications of your hippocampus and applications. Once you understand the muscle of your system, everything comes different inside locations. And then you realize, wow, I don't need to close my eyes or open my eyes. I know what I'm doing. So in that position locations, in that settings, you close your eyes, you know your eyes are already open. Your eyes are never closed. This never closes. This is just projection, right? So it's very powerful when you're looking around, nothing's changed, right? Computer's still there, phone's over here, okay? Digital pad is here. I know my digital pad is here because I'm holding it and I know it's at the same frequency. So I'm at the same frequency right now. Now, if I want to change the frequency, okay, I had changed the structure of its energy. I have to change the schematics of its computer and its digital pad. It's that position. I'm all tethered through its all lines of all communications all at once. Not only that, but I have balance with the mind. So the mind is with me in track location. If the mind's on its own, it's in its own structure of its own division, of its own schematics, of its own pie. So I've got to get balance with that too. Realize, hey, where's the mind going in tractions, right? Because if you don't have provision of your mind itself and the brain of itself set location, that's right. The mind and the brain in set location are separated, but they're both together as one. That's right. The mind and the brain are two intelligence. Hoo-ah! Because the mind's not the brain's not the mind. They're both different. Everything's inside you is different. Every circuit line communication is different. So when you get into that process, the instant all communication is getting balanced with you first. The muscle memory gets you in position of its program. So closing my eyes gets me all levels of balance. So if I want to change the frequencies, I can change the structure of the computer. When I open my eyes, it doesn't look like anything's changed, but everything has changed because I changed the energy. I changed the structure. I changed the design. I changed the frequencies. I changed the patterns. I change the colors, I change the lights, I change the hologram. Okay? Even though it doesn't look like it's moved, it has. Okay? So you have to understand to get balanced with you first. Everything inside you is extremely important. It has different levels of compartments through your ecosystem. Okay? Ecosystem. The energy lines in a 2-track, 3-line provision lines at 2-track locations, provision cycles in a 2-line rotation, sending correlation settings at center position of operation surface and track location. Okay? So, communication lines, positions of patterns and line connection setting. Volume lines of operation surface and triangulation high position of cerebral and cortex lines of correlation setting attractions high provision. Okay? Okay. So everything that general does is already done. It's in its memory of its muscle of its memory. So it's already in storage. So it just comes back to you, your memory. So in that position line connection system, it's all about understanding the past, the present, and its future of correlation. So again, you past, present, and future all at once, all through memory, all through communication, all through school, all through traction, all line connections, all through cerebral, all through locations. Right? Look at that, it disappeared. Going too fast. Okay. So it's plotted to its division lines as centers, lines of equal line communications. Position lines as center, above, and what's below its allocation. So your settings, Merkabah, test circuit, and tetrahedron. Okay. So 2 lines of communication, then settings, abundance through all of the general crypto line conditions on Friday. First one is the frequencies. Understanding how to create it through face recognition lines. How to turn a 1 in a face recognition time sequence. Space, right? So nothing can come in setting because you're connecting your system in position of balance lines and correlation, face recognition, right? Set lines communication, face recognition. Set lines communication, face recognition. See? How many face recognitions are there? Adding frame, protecting yourself in all many communication line screens, high interference, and position locations. Added cube lines, screen lines at 4 track locations in Pluto. Pluto comes in direct signals and modification right away. Okay? So in calculation, XT thousands come out, track location at 3 provisions and cycles. Okay? So if you don't have a face recognition, the XT thousands will applicable line screen interference, put a face recognition for your system interactions. Okay. So whatever you guys do, they fix until you understand your own face recognition, your space and time. Okay. So I'm showing you so many different ways where the mind and the brain are different. They're separated, but they're together. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. All through trashing people. Okay. And the other one is picking a monologue. All right. Knowing exactly what it's like to basically, when you're going through an audition, because I've been through thousands of them. And the first thing you get in position of is the words, turn them into frequencies, right? Now, being consciously aware of that knows exactly where the mind is, the perception. It's looking down to speed reading, right? You're picking out keywords in position. That's all you're doing, right? So they turn into frequencies. All right, turns into frequencies. That's allocations. Travel communication point centers. Right? Those are keywords. You take those keywords and basically equalize the calculations and settings in its equation. Equals the equation lines. Frequency lines. So line calculations, say, let's say THE. Okay. So position of point. Calculation screen. Point the graph. Okay. Point the graph. Okay. So how many point lines attractions and setting calculation? Remember, the mind already knows this. The brain already knows it. They're separated, but they work together. So we got position of 1 point traction, sets lines in the center. It's coloration line center, so it's a false, right? False narrative, right? So take the false, truth, false, right? Put that in position of travels. A is track location of 1 and 2. So that's true, right? So you're adding false over truth equals lines of coordinate setting and line center inference. False communication lines is negative lines of 0 in set locations. Then you add the equation lines of plus in set locations of 1. That's position line center high calculation system in your binaries and time position location into negative 0 plus 1. Okay? So knowing exactly how to turn that in track location, your truth and false narratives, all through set locations into calculation, right? Paint the graph, right? So understanding that through your modulation screens and your adaptation surface to understand your algorithms, how to understand the truth in its point system line conditions. It's I position locations. Now, see the I line, but it's separated, but it's together. It's separated, but it's together, right? Nothing separated, but it's always together, but doesn't add motion to anything attractions, right? So in that position line centers an all track location system, that's in a one track line condition setting, which is false, okay? False, truth, false. Now in line calculation N, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 track location is truth. And set lines of calculation stream inference. Puts position line centers and high calculation to its position of programs. Then you got T, 1, 2, and 3. So you decide if you want to go through T line centers of 1, 2, or 3. Just because the T's there doesn't mean you have to travel through 3 lines of communication, so point centers of graphs, into docking, okay, and track locations in all settings, right? So you take that all lines of the false, truth, and false in set location line conditions. You add its equation and set positions, calculate nodes thither. Sets lines all communication nodes platforms, putting platforms in communication nodes frequencies. Add in the frequency line screen high interference. Where is its set location nodes atmospheres? Alpha, theta, omega, zeta. Okay, 4 track line provision line cycles and a 3 line communication setting interaction. Platform of communications, right? So you take that line settings, the high center interference, and travel location setting. Okay, so I understand that track locations are 1, 2, and 3 platforms and communications. Right? See the pyramid? See the Merkaba? See understand the core settings and track communications, all over the settings. High lines is communication of platforms and high line rotation surface and track locations. Core circles and set connections. Okay? So there's so many ways of looking at through platform of communication. Right? So triangulation line split anomalies, flux capacitor in track location line system, in track locations. Okay, travel communication, line connections. Right, center correlation setting lines, light bulb of track location. Okay, measure meters, scales, balance, line calculation setting, and center position. Okay. Face recognition. Always a face recognition, guys. There's always going to be a face recognition. All right, so that's what I want you guys to get into. And you also can see the intelligence information, right? See the eyes? Intelligence, intelligence. 2 track lines of intelligent locations, right? Very powerful stuff. All right, sonar division, track locations, high positional centers. I just want you guys to really understand the graph calculation lines when it comes into frequency lines of words. So you take the keywords and you change that set location settings of truth and false narratives because you're adding lines and resetting position your binaries. All right. So every time you're communicating to a different letter, you got to go back and reset because the frequency is changing. So you're putting your position as a T, THE, right? So EH is here, E is here in set locations, right? But you don't need to travel through 3-point graphs. You can just travel through 1, okay? But I just want to travel through the center. And I just want to travel over here to point graphs. And then I want to just travel here at 3 graphs, right? That's 3 line cross, okay, in position. So it doesn't have to be this. Just because it's a T doesn't mean you're going to travel through 3, okay? So you have to understand the conception of the mind, and you have to understand the conception of you. That's one of the difference between they're separated, but you're together. That's what it is. You're separated through emotion, but you're together through emotion. That's the equation you guys have to come into. There's a coordinate line centers of travels, equal line communications. The equal line is the separation, but the center line is the balance of its flywheel communication, right? So you got the up line and you got position of down cross locations, right? So you're separated, but you're connected to each other. What means and set lines the Merkaba test or contentious region is applications. Okay, of its intelligence information. Okay. All right, so when you get into the T-line center, you don't have to go in 3. Let's cross line screens. I'm only going to go in 2 track locations. Remember, the frequency changes lines of seconds, minutes, and hours, right? So that's 2 frames. As a triangulation line of an L. Cross line calculation looks like it connects to a pin, right? A hairpin. Track location line settings and travel, or hanger. Sets cross line screens and set position and setting. Now it's together, right? Everything is separated but connected to everything. Okay. So once you understand how to use the fault and moralize design, that's really understanding the process, how you come into frequencies of muscle memory. Muscle memory is everything in tractions. 1 line division, 2 track locations, 2 false, 1 truth. Now this is interesting, right? This is truth. And this is false. Right? It can do whatever you want in set locations, right? So what I'm doing through plateau is different from what you're going to be doing through the mind. Right? False, truth. But General, I thought you said if you color in, it's false. No. Okay? You are your own program setting. It's not what I say. It's what you refer yourself as. Right? So you have to understand the division line calculation, stream interference, and set location line connections. What the mind is saying and what you're saying is 2 different line connections. That's the balance. The mind and the brain are separated, but together. All right. So in that track lines, the truth line comes in screen lines, and the triangulation line consists of split. Splits anomalies in a pi line triangulation of 4 settings in pi and set locations. Okay. Coming line calculates and setting to its scale and track locations in 2 provisions of cycles. Okay. Sets communication, face recognition. Okay. So it could be anything at once, but see, it's understanding the balance of you as truth. Now, truth can be anything through false, and false can be anything through truth. The only difference you have to understand, space isn't created yet. It needs a host. And once it gets a host, it's connected right away in your lights, connected to your networks and narrow links, and your line center locations, your data links. Data links, narrow links, and position of its process of its operational links. Interception is inceptions of view of the mind. It's the conception location as setting and track location. You're here, traveling line communication system, point lines of graphs, getting into position of point centers and travel communications. So you're here in positions, right? So this is you going through points, getting to your abundance, right? But the mind is doing something different, okay, in settings, in set positions calculation. Right? That's the mind, but you're doing something different. That's the balance you guys need to get. It's muscle memory of the mind and what it's doing through its factors, correlates, and settings. So it's going to always do something different until you understand the balance of you. Once you understand the balance of you, you understand your energy correlations of its friendship, relation, and its partnership. That's the mind. This is you. Okay? So now you understand the point lines of attractions when it comes in all calculation of settings of separation. General, the mind. Okay. Now it's really interesting when you come into correlation lines of attractions. Now, if the mind in position lines of triangulation line connections, it's balanced with me now. Right? Sets position lines calculation high center interference, set lines of high center calculation to its position locations. Mind's doing it on its own. That's the mind. That's the mind and me. Right? Now, track location line calculation setting high line position locations. That's the brain. Something different. Do you understand the power of the mind is the conception of all set locations, is balancing everything of your muscle memories? How to use the motivations, how to understand the activated center, how to put yourself in process of communications, to know the difference between the mind, okay, the heart, the soul, and the body. But now you're in a higher line connections of avatar cerebral, understanding the mind, the brain, and yourself. And that's what you guys are coming into, right? Which is muscle memory. So 3-track revisions that you guys have to get connected with. And that's why I want you guys to get into your monologues. That's why I want you to get into frame communications. I want you to close your eyes, get into that image, and draw it on its structure of the same design that you created in position. So You're going through projection, you're sitting down, you're watching a film strip, right? You're watching a film strip, and what you're watching should be exactly what you're putting on paper. Which basically you're getting balance. You're getting balance with the mind. The mind's trying to get balance with you. And once you get balance with the mind goes off in its own. And once you get balance with the mind, and you got position location, the brain goes on its own. That's right, 3-track division location, separation, but all connected in one. Separated 3, but all connected in one. Okay? The mind, the brain, and you are separated, but you are connected. Okay? Equal in position, center position, set locations, center correlation track lines, a flywheel, and track location of balance, guys. That's all it is. Balancing you and your polarities is set design. All right? So General is working with the mind, working with the brain, and myself at the same time, all in center. So you have to understand that now, because your mind itself is trying to understand itself. The brain itself is trying to understand itself, and you're trying to understand the mind and the brain put together. You guys are going, whoa, okay, this is way too much. There's the scale right there. All right. Zany track lines and communication lines, center location, you have teeter-totters and track locations. Right? Balancing that line connections to cross lines connections, right? You go this way, you're sitting on the set location, right? In positions. Oh, whoa, way too off. This person flew off at set location. So you see the balance you guys need to get just with the teeter-totter itself and track location. Find the balance inside connections. All of the center correlation setting attracts these flywheels. Platform of communications. 1, platforms of communication. 2, 3, and 4 set locations of setting. Okay? All right. So how's everybody doing so far? I know this is mind-blowing. You're just like, whoa, this is intense. Well, it is intense because you're reaching higher levels of you now. Your capacities in your bodies are reaching higher communication with volume. Is trying to stand locations to the mind, the brain, and myself that you got to get balanced with. You got to get balanced with that first. Then you got to get balanced with the mind where it does its own system. You got to get balanced with the brain where it does its own system. But you're never going to be separated. Okay? You're always connected. Separation is the equaline communication. That's where you guys are in position of patterns. E equals, right? 1 plus 1 equals, right? Always the equaline setting, right? So you're looking at the space, you're looking at the time, and you're looking at the grounds. You're looking at northwest, south, and east and set location, right? So there's so many ways of looking at that. Are you working through the mind? Are you working through the brain? Or are you working through yourself? That's where you have to come into configuration of. See, it's getting to a higher level of process now where the team has to really understand that. And the only way to get there in position location is your muscle memories and set locations. To understand when you close your eyes, you know exactly what you're seeing through the image in set position. Get the balance of the mind and what it's doing in set locations, because the mind's doing something, the brain's doing something, and you're doing something all at once. Now, this is the separation that you guys have to find the balance with. Getting energy collaboration, friendship, and its partnership puts everything in design. And you realize in communication setting, everything works for you in set design. Getting into that modification system, then you understand what the mind is doing, what the brain is doing, and what you're doing in the same sequence. You're all working together. You work together, you work to separate it, but you're always connected to each other. Okay? So again, it's the equal that you got to get process of. Understanding the platforms of space is understanding the platforms of your earth. And understand the flywheel and trapplication of balance. Okay, understanding the platforms in communication, setting, and travel and set position to your dimensional setting. Okay. Understanding you in space. Okay, going through those platforms. Okay, when you go into recharge and remote, you're going through the dimensional door through pi. Hoo-ah! Okay, that's balance. You got balance with the grounds, the earth. You got balanced ground location of your astral projections. You got balanced ground center location of your soul. And you got balanced communication of travels in the ethereal. And you got balanced locations of your heart set location. Okay. Tracking line provision of 45-degree lines, graph communication stream interference, cross-line signals, send communication, laser line communication, sending travel. Okay. Hologram. Everything is a process of a hologram. Okay. So, how's everybody doing so far on that setting? Okay. This is what you have to come into now because you're reaching higher levels. You say, I told you exactly what you have to focus on. That's what I'm saying. The most powerful thing is to focus on yourself. How can you not focus on yourself and realize, oh, Jenna, are you telling me the mind is different from the brain? The brain is different from me? Yep. You're separated, but you're connected to each other. Now, getting out of separation puts you in a full cycle. You're not there yet. You understand the yin yang of the mind. You have to understand the yin and yang of the brain. And you have to understand yin and yang of yourself. 3-track provisions over pi. Once you get into that set location line conditions, you know exactly what you're doing through adaptation. I don't have to look at my fingers. I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay? I'm not looking. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's all in settings of balance. Okay? So there's no thinking. There's no hesitation. Okay? You guys have to get out of the emotional lines of its interference. See, you guys already have that. You have your immortalities. You just understand you don't want to see the mortality because you have an emotional line track that you have to get in balance of. Don't focus on that, because if you focus on that, you're not focusing on the mind. You're not focusing on the brain. You're not focusing on yourself. You're separate from everything and not connected to anything. Okay? So there's no ego in between. It's not there, is it? Can't see it. Right? It's disappeared. It's disappeared, but it's still there, right? Reach those levels, then you understand its set location of travels. Direct modification to its cycles and high calculation to its system and travel communications. Point lines of attractions puts in all lines, all communicate to its settings. All right? All through set location. So it's very powerful. Once you come into that calculation system, of set design. Okay? There's so many ways of looking at it through attractions. All through calculations, all right? Getting that communication interference. See, now it's invisibility. I got to reset lines of drawing board, in line position of travel line, point centers, attractions, puts me back in track location. See? So the actual board itself was invisible. So every time I used my finger, I couldn't allocate position, time, sequence. So in that set location, you need balance with the mind, the brain, and yourself. So I'm telling you, you got to understand the space, you got to understand between, and you got to understand your earth. Okay? 3 platforms of space and 3 platforms of earth, guys. Okay? And you in the center, which is 7. Okay? Habitation 1, 2, and 3. Position lines of 4, 5, and 6. Okay? That's how it's set up. So you're the 7-line screen in set position operation that stays in the center of all calculation. Okay? So understand your line conditions, settings, locations, and you come into your numbers. 6, 7, and 8. And 9 in the center as set locations, right? 9 comes in inline setting. 7 equals lines of 9. 9 lines center, so that's location of 3. 3 lines of 6, lines of 7, 8, and 2 in process communication. Okay? So it's really understanding the lines of travel to understand the mechanism of high calculation of settings, right? This is U traction of yin and yang, okay? Right? This is U traction locations of the mind, okay? And this is U track locations to your earth, okay? So the actual earth itself, guys, okay, pay attention now. The actual earth, your perception, is your brain. The center line condition of yin and yang is you, which is your identification of your sim. right? All lines are over soul. The center lines of space is its mind that you got to get balanced with. Okay. You see how powerful it is in track locations? Now, understanding that through track lines, they all travel each other in set location line system, and all lines have communication settings, all through modification. Right? So understanding that the position lines of 1, 2, and 3 come in all center, all communication, the force direction of time sequence in one setting. Hoo-ah! They all come together. Ooh. Okay. Mind, you, brain, you, your mind has to come together. You have to understand the process of the mind and its intelligence, what it does in its own system. You have to understand you and the process of your own system locations, and you have to understand the brain of its own system correlation setting to its own perception location and calculation. Okay, come together. Okay. So that separates all correlation setting to track lines in position locations. Equal line centers just becomes a platform. That's all it is. It's no equal anymore. There's no separation. So it actually is your transits. That's what you guys have to come in tractions of. That's the transit location setting. Yeah, you can separate that lines, but you're in transit now, which is higher levels of habitation zones and set locations, right? Platform 1, platform 2, right? Astral projections, line connections, setting and travel. Point lines of attractions, downshift, cross line connections. Sets communications and perceptions over pi. Track communication lines of center, crop circle location system, and travel calculations. So every single time, generally speaking, I'm speaking through the mind, myself, and the brain all at once, right? But if the earth wants to change its position, it goes off on its own. I have to be in line connection with what it's doing. If my self line connection wants to go this way in tractions, I have to know what I'm saying. If the mind wants to create a new anomaly of space lines, it has to know what it's doing in traction. So to see what you're coming into, the higher levels of the mind itself, you have to understand the Earth platforms and what it's doing through its own location, because it's doing everything on its own. You have to understand your center correlation setting, your platforms, and what you're doing on your track locations on your own sys locations. That's why you're going to focus on yourself. And you have to understand what the mind is doing through its own platform, its own calculations. The mind, you, and the brain. Okay? Earth. Okay? You, your oversoul. Right? That's what you're in process of, your sim, right? So, but you have to understand they're separated, but they're connected to each other. So they work on their own system, own calculations, own space, own anomaly, own travel, own operation, own conscience, own awareness. And that's what you got to get balanced with first. Okay? Very powerful stuff, which is often muscle memory. Okay? Has its own line track provision, location, its consciousness of its awareness, guys. And that's what you got to get balanced with. Is you. This is your earth. This is your brain. The earth itself is the brain. You, the self, is your settings, which is your position, your oversoul. The mind itself, again, the mind itself is its own navigation. You've got to come in collaboration of all three of understanding the system to fruition. Okay? So, how does everybody feel about that now? A lot more different, right? Really have to start processing yourself. It's amazing what we're coming into, guys, especially with the team. Spacey lines, correlation and track lines, they just have to get into the image lines of the earth, understand the soul and traction foundation graph lines and one line settings, 1/2 interference, positional pi. The track to its communication line calculation setting has to learn the adaptation location of the mind of its image. That's where they're coming in the process of. Like I said, focusing on yourself is everything. Okay, this is what you have to really understand now because you're reaching higher levels of its mind of conception of travel through navigation. right? So we're good? Everybody happy? More confused than ever? This just gets you in a process of grounds to really understand how to see things and then be off page. You look here when you're looking at a director. You're not looking at the book. Okay, it wants to see your face. It wants to see your expression. It wants to see you through emotion without emotion. Acting is acting without emotion, but with emotion. So it's kind of like your position locations, you're setting yourself in a scene and you're trying to understand the scene. You can't understand the scene, just do the scene. Emotion is not created through its emotion, it's natural. So it's about seeing that image, how to make myself cry, get into that frame, When I was in set location of X-Men and lion condition settings, there's this boy who fell down. And I said, how'd you make yourself cry? Well, I was thinking of my cat. Right? So he got in that provision of its image. He got into his muscle memory. He started to cry. So I thought that was very impressive. Crying on set immediately is very hard to do, especially when you have pressure with all the crew and the director. Can you cry on scene? I don't know. I'm kind of confused right now. Well, what are you confused about? Okay. You're trying to figure out how to cry. You can't do that. It's the image that comes in. Everything comes through its image, and that's a process that we all have to come into. You're never going to get rid of that locations because that's about understanding how you come into co-creation in the first place. And how you see things is understanding how you connect through its perception. Because you make decisions and choices that happens next, right? It's your determination of what you do through integration. That's on you, right? So you understand the image here is the process that you see here on platform. Okay, directing the lines of your earth perception, directing lines of communications of your oversoul in directions, and directing lines in your mind of conception and navigation. 3 lines of communication separated, but they're all connected. And then you realize in that position locations, they've never been separated. They're all connected in one. Right? But this is the process you guys have to come into. And the most powerful thing that you can do is to focus on yourself. You're going to have to now. Okay? Because your earth is changing its own perception of its own setting. Your mind is changing its own navigation of its own setting. And you have to get in triangulation of your own set locations and get balanced with that set location. Okay? Because once you get in your avatar, your cerebral, you come into your sim through navigation, right? So that's what it is. The earth, okay, your oversoul, and the space. Space through the seconds, atmospheres through the minutes, and earth through the hours. Okay? So once you get into that positions, you understand the seconds, minutes, and hours, because what you're doing is you're adding equations to its earth so you can understand its intelligence first. So you're adding equations to yourself so you can understand yourself first through your space and time. And you're understanding its equation through its mind of its own system, of its own navigation of itself. Okay? That's the process you all have to come into, which is muscle memory. Okay? Muscle memory. All right. So we really get into that positional centers and all travel and all track location and settings to its operation. So try to get into frame communication of keywords into frequency lines. Paint the graph. Know exactly how to go through the 0-1s attractions, false narratives, truth line, communication setting, and travel. So it's all up to you, balancing you. Okay? Because whatever the mind says, in position, the heart's saying something different. You got to get balanced with that. You got to communicate with that. You got to have an earth center location setting and travel. You understand what the connections of the soul is doing because it could be going to a different direction. The mind has to understand the conception of where you're going because it's doing something else. So this is what it is. The mind's going this way, you're going this way, and the earth is doing this. Okay? That's its own intelligence, guys. Earth, you, your mind. Earth is the brain. You are the center core of your universe, line condition of youth, unification, which is your sim, your over soul. The mind is its navigation of its own system, of its own setting, of its own travel. Going this way, you're going this way, and your brain is going that way. Setting up this, this, and this, and 3 triangulation line conditions. Okay? Once it understands its system, it comes together. It comes together in set location. Okay? And all formations and all calculation screen lines and all adaptation line conditions of yin and yang, all at once. So the earth, your brain, you, and the mind come together. Okay? Hoo-ah! All right? That's it. That's why you're going to really focus on yourself now. Okay? You have to understand the communication of the mind because it's traveling to a different level. You have to understand the communication of you because you're in the center operation of you. You have to understand the earth, preserves the piece of the brain because it's doing something else. You've got to get balanced with that. The biggest thing is to understand you inside completely. Understand the space, the time that you create through the space in between. That's why I keep saying, focus on yourself, focus on yourself, focus on yourself. You don't focus on yourself, you're not going to understand anything of the mind. You're not going to understand any location of your settings, location of your heart, or anything through your soul, or anything through your body capacitor. Your capacitor is everything through space and time, its own system. But that's you. That's you. It's not the mind. It's not the earth. It's you. You understand the process. You are everything of combination. But you have to understand it has its own system first. And that's what you're coming into. Because the mind says one thing, you're saying one thing, and your earth is saying one thing. Your brain's saying something like connection, line, interference, time, position, location, travel. What's going on, General? Where are you on track, location, line, system, location, line, connection? I just finished in position travels. That's right. I got in correlations of balance track to its position, location, centers. Thank you. In position, location, calculation. Copy that. Right. So brain's doing something. I'm listening to what brain's doing. Now the mind is doing something. Mind communication line interference and sending off track line communication lines. Did you get in position location, the earth line communication travel? Yes, copy that. I got position location tango, foxtrot, position location tags, communications, balance, position location earth, sending correlation, sending my track lines, high center interference, and center communications, and the mind location of collaboration of balance. So connected with my brain, connected with me, all at once. Okay, you've got to get balanced with that now because you're going to higher levels of the cerebral. Okay, the cortex, your placebo, is going to go faster. And when it goes faster, the mind comes in its own setting, of its own system, of its own design, of its own structure, of its own weighting, of its own correlation, of its own pie, of its own awareness, of its own consciousness, guys. You've got to get balanced with that now. Okay? All right. See you in 5.